Hello, my name is Nicolas Polimenakos. I help out behind the scenes here at NORWAC, the Northwest Astrological Conference, which is happening May 21st to May 25th, just outside Seattle, the DoubleTree Suites Hotel. And it's in person, but you can also attend virtually from anywhere in the world. This is what we call a hybrid conference. Today I'm with Samuel Reynolds.
Hello, Nicholas.
Sam, how's it going?
It's going pretty well.
Yeah, yeah. We're live.
We're alive.
Huh?
The sun is shining,
Hmm.
so I'm happy.
Yeah, me too. It's shining where I'm here where I'm at too. I feel pretty good. Um, it's Jupiter Day as we film this, by the way. It's a Thursday. It's just one of those things. I feel good. And you and I go way back. We're friends and colleagues, so on and so forth. And we both have a history with this conference, with the Northwest Astrological Conference. I mean, I've been attending, I guess, for 17, 18 years straight. I think it is now, or helping.
Hmm.
You have been involved in many ways as a speaker, keynote speaker, closing keynotes, workshops, lectures, the scholarships that NORWAC's involved in,
The diversity scholarship,
diversity
yeah.
scholarships. So, anyway, it's going to be great to have you again and see you in person. And for those online, if you're interested in any of this, you can go to norwac.net. You can see the schedule, the lecture topics, the bios, the pre and post conference workshop schedule. Everything is there at norwac.net. Sam,
Yes,
when
sir.
we kick off the official conference on Friday, you have a lecture on Friday afternoon at 2:45 p.m. The lecture is called Malcolm and Martin, Critical View of These Avatars of Activism Through the Lens of Astrology. But that's very poetic flow of words there, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Tell us a little
was
bit
going for
about
some
this one.
some assonance there.
Yeah.
Well, I I'm excited about this lecture because we're in a moment that I think requires activism on multiple levels. And I've been doing a deep dive of the lives of these two men. In fact, I have two books I could hold up, definitive biographies that have come out in recent years. One is King, A Life by Jonathan Egg or
Mhm.
Eig. And then the other one is The Dead Are Arising, The Life of Malcolm X by Les Payne and his daughter Tamara Payne.
Oh,
So it's largely by Les Payne, but Tamara finished the work after Les passed. And I've been thinking about how they have worked in tandem. And when I say in tandem, it's not like the two men ever worked together. They stayed distant and only met once in life. Um, and actually, what's sad is that Malcolm was supposed to meet with Martin the Tuesday before, or the Tuesday after he was assassinated the Tuesday. He was assassinated on the Saturday. He was going to meet with Martin on Tuesday.
hmm.
Um, So, but these men have a lot of parallels that I think we need to talk about astrologically related to how we might think about our activism. They both died at 39. They both had 13 years between them of active service. Dr. King is a Capricorn sun with a Taurus rising, whereas Malcolm X was a Taurus sun with a Capricorn rising.
Oh, really? Huh.
Yeah. So they both had an out of bound Mars.
Huh.
Um, so there's a lot of parallels and divergences between them that I think give us a clue into understanding how we might move forward and how we might think about them in completing some measure of the initial drive of the civil rights movement. It's no longer, I mean, it's not finished, the civil rights movement, but that first drive from the 50s into the 60s, and now culminating with the overturn of key aspects of the Voting Rights Act from
Yeah.
1965 that SCOTUS has just recently done, I think it becomes a time to revisit that more than ever.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree with you. I also think it was interesting because we're recording this on a Thursday. It was yesterday where Supreme Court made that decision on a Mercury day.
Yeah.
But I think too um,
With a moon in Libra.
with the moon in Libra, yeah, exactly. We're supposed to, in a sense too, we had the Tuesday and the Wednesday while we would do this forecast week where we kind of had a grand air trine that happened, and you would think, on paper, there's certain things that are flowing, right? But I think sometimes when we deal with astrology, we have to look at the overall picture of how things flow, and then we have our own biases. And I think this brings up something here too, because for me. Let's say I were to attend a lecture like this here, I would want to know their charts and so on and so forth. But if one were to try to understand current times and were to step forward next, yet we could see the examples and with people and the journey they had in their own sense, in their own world at a different time, with activism and dealing with justice, right, and fairness, and how that story never ends. And here we are, so many years, decades later, and as astrologers, we know things are always reoccurring and cyclical, and so you can't ignore that. It's what we do as astrologers. But then if we pinpoint, I think, and we look at people's lives, and especially two powerful people like this, we can glean certain nuggets of gold and knowledge to help us take the next steps.
Absolutely. We just had
Yeah.
the second Saturn returns for the assassinations of both men, the deaths of both men.
Hmm.
So Malcolm died with a Saturn in Pisces, and then Dr. King died with a Saturn in Aries.
Yeah.
So I think it's time.
Yeah, definitely. Plus, too, I think whatever level of astrology one is at, and two, when we're looking at people's lives and charts, and we have a story to look at, too. So we're looking at that. One can go to Wikipedia and see the event. They can pick up the two books that you mentioned, and when you start to get all this stuff, you can really see how someone's chart moves and how alive it is, and how
Absolutely.
develops. So we can pick up knowledge, I think, in all different ways with something like this. This lecture, again, is Friday the 22nd at 2:45 p.m. Next day, at the heart of the conference, Sam, you have a lecture at 10:30 a.m. after the morning keynote that's given. It's called Using Astrology to Thrive in Your 50s.
Yes. Yeah,
Yes.
I'm also excited about that, and I'm very appreciative to NORWAC for allowing me to complete a series there. So my this will be
Mhm.
my 11th year, I believe, at
Mhm.
NORWAC. And is that right? Yeah, it is. And so probably year two, 2016, I started a series where I was like using astrology to thrive in your 20s. Then I did the series of using astrology, went with that series, using astrology to thrive in your 30s, and then using astrology to thrive in your 40s. And so, but I stopped for a number of years because I turned 50. And I said, I'm not going to talk about being in your 50s until I've completed more of my 50s.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
on May 22nd, I actually will be 58 and a half because
Uh-huh.
my birthday is November 22nd. So I felt comfortable enough, having gone through my second Saturn return by the exact degree, to give that talk. So it's part of a series. If anyone wants to check that out from the past, they can do the previous decades of adulthood, which is what my plan is to cover. So I
Yeah.
hope, as I approach my 70s, inshallah, um, I can do using astrology to thrive in your 60s and then the 70s. And we'll see if
Yeah.
I'm lucky to get to the 80s.
Yeah. Well, I respect you, Sam, because one could say do a lecture something like this, their 50s and then in their 30s, thinking they know what's going to happen in the 50s.
Right.
You could read whatever what says in a textbook, and we do that. That's how we learn. But the other part of it is lived experience. And
Lived
so,
experience. Yeah. So I
yes.
wanted to live through it. At the time that I was giving those lectures, I had lived through most of my 40s, so I felt comfortable enough
Sure.
to do that. Um, I had lived through my 20s and 30s already, but I was like, yeah, let me take a break.
Yeah. Because in
from
the
a physical.
40s, too, a lot of times between 41 and 46, we're doing the Saturn and Uranus oppositions. Usually, when you
Yeah,
get to 46, 47, you talk to somebody, you look them in the eye, and they could tell you a story or two about the last
yeah,
6, 7 years,
exactly.
So I get it. And I think this is great for anybody, again, interested in attending the conference, whether it's in person or online. You can go to norwac.net. All the information's there, the schedule, the day by day. Listen, if you can't go to the whole weekend, you can pick a certain day and get the day pass, or there's just a pre-conference or post-conference lecture that you want. You can just purchase that. The other thing on the website is there's an archive that's sitting on the back end for past lectures. So let's say you want to go find Sam's past lectures that we're mentioning, that he's mentioning here. You can go there and you just put Sam's name in the search and you'll see everything Sam has done at the conference uh, since you were referencing 30s, 40s. And now for the epic lecture you will do on Saturday, using astrology to thrive in your 50s. And then we get to Sunday, Sam, and this is a very interesting, rare moment here for you in the history of NORWAC and your presence there. And you are doing the Sunday morning opening lecture,
Yeah.
or keynote, I should say, in NORWAC at 9 a.m. Pacific, and it's called "Do We Still, quote unquote, Have a Dream?" The astrology of the March on Washington and now. I see a theme going on this weekend, Sam. I feel I see a theme happening here. Tell us a little bit about the Sunday keynote.
Well, a couple things. So
Yeah.
I had done the closing keynote for 6 years, and I'm very grateful for NORWAC allowing me to do that. Um, but it became time or clear that it was time for someone else, perhaps even younger, to kind of step forward. So I'm really happy that Colin Bedell is going to do the closing keynote, which is extra special because Colin was the diversity scholarship winner along with some others in 2016.
Hmm.
So 10 years later to see him give the closing address is really I'm pretty chuffed about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that, not that I'm making it about me, but it is I am grateful to kind of see that level of investiture come ripe
Yeah.
in terms of that. But so I am going to do an opening for that Sunday, and people will be hungover, I think, or some
Some
people
will
might
be.
be.
I'll be
Some will be.
bright-eyed. I'll be right
Okay,
there.
bright-eyed and bushy-tailed.
Yeah.
Some will be, and I thought it would be interesting. And so there is a theme. Since I was talking about King and Malcolm X, I figured I could splice some of the DNA from that lecture and also put toward this, but also dealing with the critical moment that we're in. One of the things that um, I've I've learned in my research, and I've been studying the life of Dr. King since I was in graduate school, more than 30 years ago. And I read the other definitive biography on Dr. King by David Garrow, Bearing the Cross. So I've thought very deeply about his life. And what's interesting is that a lot of people will cite Dr. King's dream from 1963, not realizing that was not the king who died in 1968
Uh-huh.
and who was wrestling with the sense of the dream. So this is both an evaluation of the dream, in that speech, which is only 3 pages. I mean, I think it was less than 20, 25 minutes in terms of him doing it. And it came at the very end of the March on Washington, the March for Jobs and Freedom in August 28th, 1968, 1963, sorry. Um, but it's going to be interesting to dive deeper into what did that dream mean? How have we lived with the dream or lack thereof, or the nightmare, as Malcolm X would talk about, and what that means for us today? Because King pivoted, after the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the Civil Rights Acts and Voting Rights Acts of 1965. King felt like, okay, it's time to look at some other things, related to poverty.
Mhm.
One of the things he has said is that, I fought for people to be able to purchase a burger at a counter, anywhere in America, especially in the South, but not be able to actually purchase one, not have the money to actually purchase one.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that that's a still an issue related to our economy. And also he talked very vociferously about the Vietnam War. And here we are dealing with another set of wars.
Yeah.
Um, so I think there are a lot of things that we do need to deal with relate to, Dr. King's dream as articulated in 1963.
Yeah, and off the top of my head right now, I'm thinking about some of the outer body transits that were happening there in the 60s, and then the outer body transits that are really starting to enter, we're entering right now,
Yeah,
especially with Pluto Uranus, right? And what Pluto Uranus was in conjunction in the 60s, and then what it is now by trine, and how stories move and how they change and evolve. The other thing I'm thinking about too is the idea of, again, we go back to like your first lecture, and people's stories changing, evolve, and we could take someone who's passed away in certain quotes and stories and it means something, but just like anybody in life, certain events happen to you, and you grow and change, or different strategies and philosophical thought enter someone's world. So even then I think about those times then when we deal with class issues, things that class issues, which covers all ranges of people and race, right? And I think will probably be one of the most prominent things we're going to deal with, even politically. I don't think just in the United States, but I think in the world, when we deal with economics and people just trying to survive, right? And
yeah,
so, it's a thing that, again, we deal in astrology, we deal with cycles, and things come back around, and it's always good to get perspective from the past to get insight to now and what could happen.
absolutely. I
Yeah.
mean, one of the things I talked about, there were parallels between 1964, I mean, sorry, 1968 and 2024.
Hmm.
Um, I talked a lot about the parallels, even just in like the setup. So the setup was in 1968, RFK Sr. was running for president and we were dealing with an assassination. We
Hmm.
had an assassination attempt in 2024, and I guess one now in 2026 and 2025 as well. Um, I'm just going to say it that way.
Yeah.
I'm going to be good. And I also think we had a vice president who was from Minneapolis, um, who was running against a Republican who had run before, uh, and that party lost in 1968. So, and also from a president who was told not to run.
Right. Right.
Um, so, yeah, speaking of these cycles, it's not just the astrology of it, and I mentioned the Saturn and Aries, but like you mentioned, the conjunction, we go from the Uranus Pluto conjunction to the Uranus Pluto trine. Um, there's a lot of different overlaps. One of the things that put this on my radar, because people may ask, like, okay, other than that, what made you want to talk about that speech?
Yeah.
So August 28th, 1963, there's a Sun Venus conjunction at 4 degrees Virgo. That talk I'm giving has the South Node at four
Oh yeah,
degrees
the
Virgo.
South will be around the counter. It will be at 4 degree. That's right. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I was like, oh. And that
This,
was just because I was preparing for the King lecture, right? And I
yeah.
looked at that and I was like, Goonie Goo Goo. I think that should be its own talk.
Yeah, yeah. You know what just popped up in my brain was in August, because we do some eclipses in August, but we have a trailing eclipse that deals with the full moon in Pisces pretty much around that degree that you
Four
just,
degree, four
yeah,
degrees, yeah.
it pretty much goes that. See,
So I'm like,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
right. I was like, oh, there's a message,
Yeah.
in terms of that. So
Well, I think it's interesting. Well, in general, overall, people people's entry into astrology, and however they go, if they're just reading sun sign columns every week or they go deeper to study, regardless, I think everyone's an astrologer. And I think the big part of recognizing that is, like, once into astrology, and then it's recognizing the messages, as you said. Because I think it's in a human to where one is trying to find meaning in the universe. That's just the story of who we are. And a
That's
lot of
true.
times we follow the messages. So, if, you're an astrologer out there and you're new and whatever, and you're like, I don't know. And I'm learning, I'm reading these books or do this. And, remember, every astrologer, whether they're doing for 40 or 50 years or you're a month in, we're still doing the same thing. We're capturing and picking the messages and then correlating them with mathematics and with, you could say, one's instinct or even intuition. And that's how it happens. So I'm saying this for overall, Sam, when we think about a conference like NORWAC, when we get together in person and virtually, we get to talk in this language and we get to share that. And we don't have to second guess ourselves sometimes with the rest of the world. We know that somebody on a Saturday night at NORWAC Online will meet somebody in the chat rooms and they get to be free. And usually in those conversations, those messages come across and it's synchronistic and you feel like you're connected to yourself and to the world, right? So for
Correct.
me, it's the magic of it all and what we do. And so when we do events like NORWAC, we get together and we talk in all different ways. We have a good time. We talk the language, right, and everything. But at the same time, when we walk out of a conference weekend here, or I know when I walk out of your Sunday morning keynote, I'm going to walk out with some more stuff here. And I'm like, all right, I'm going into the world. I now have this, I have more that I have understood and I can use, right? So it's anyway, I'm really psyched to see you in person again, Sam.
Same.
Again.
And for those who are on the fence, what I would say, whether you're on the fence to attend virtually or attend in person, one thing I like is that NORWAC has really stepped up its game as a hybrid conference. So it's done a lot of work to make it a very good and wholesome and fun experience on the virtual end as well.
Yeah.
And it will be a smaller conference, which is funny since NORWAC is usually the biggest conference that happens every year.
Yeah.
It'll be a smaller conference than the big conference that we're going to have in September at UAC in Chicago.
Yeah.
So if you kind of want to dip your shins into the water, do come to NORWAC if you can come, or try it virtually, see how you have the experience, and
Yeah,
then
and
attend.
Norwalk's the only one doing it virtually too this year. UX
Right.
in
Yeah.
person
UAC is
only.
not virtual. Yeah.
The Thursday night before the conference starts, we have two pre-conference lectures that happen on the Thursday. There's a virtual only conference with Mark Jones, and then later there's a in-person and virtual with Austin Coppock on the Thursday. But later on that day, I will be with our online host, Samantha, and myself, and we're going to open up the Zoom rooms before the conference starts just to hang out. I'll be doing it from the hotel. Samantha will be doing it from home. Anybody that comes in, we can answer questions, have a good time before we jump in on the Friday of lectures, right? And then during the weekend, we have Q&As that happen in between the lectures with somebody like you, Sam. You're going to be part of a Q&A that's going to happen on Sunday. Uh, I think you're around, yeah. This Q&A is very at 11:50 a.m. in between lectures. I might be facilitating this one, by the way. It's yourself, Sam, Andy Gertz, Rick Levine, and Colin Bedell. I don't know how much brain power you want in
We're
a
gonna have a lot
certain.
of fun.
Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun there. All of these Q&As happen in between the lectures the whole weekend. Again, go to norwac.net. You could take a look at the schedule and see the whole Q&A set up, everything that's involved with the conference, the prices, the rates, the bios, everything else. Sam, I'm ready to do this ritual again here in a few weeks. It'll be really good to see you.
Same. Same. Always good to see you, Nicholas.
Yeah, 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 totally. Yeah, just I think we're related somehow in some sort of way.
In some kind of interesting way.
Some sort of way, yeah. All right, everyone. Thanks for being here, Sam, and thanks for watching, everyone. Again, go to norwac.net for all the info.